Okay.
All right.
So, hi everyone, and welcome to our monthly coaching session, business coaching session for the community members of OHI. OHI is a networking platform focused on relationship building. We are building a platform that will help you identify the people in the room, have specific conversation starters for your best matches, and then help you with all the follow-up. Right now, what we're doing in the community is giving service to people who are business owners or entrepreneurs who would like to grow their business. And Avrohom Jack is a business coach. He will tell more about himself soon. Uh, right now, it's once a month, so we're going to open it weekly. Ask Me Anything session for all Ohio community members. And Avrohom Jack, I will let you start by telling about yourself and then about the content, and then we'll have a session of question and answers again.
Sure. Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate it. So my name is Avrohom Jacks. I'm a business coach. Worn many different hats. Today, I'm excited to speak about how to achieve your business goals faster. And I'll be, I guess, leaning a lot on my experience with my many clients in different verticals, and a little bit about goal setting and how I've helped people actually achieve goals. I've been a student of goal setting for many years. I've tried many different methods of goal setting, and the one that I'm going to share with you today, I think, is by far and away the best. So there are three reasons why people go into business. And these reasons are financial freedom. They want to build wealth and independence. And there is no vehicle that I am aware of where you can build more wealth than if you are in your own business. So if you're getting a T4, you can be comfortable if you have a senior position, but you can never actually build wealth, certainly not intra-generational wealth, and certainly not wealth that allows you um, to be independent of anybody else. So people who go into business, who start their own businesses, they do so to build wealth. They also do so for time ownership. The second kind of focus of why a person would be motivated to start their own business, which is a hard and difficult enterprise, is because it allows them to control their schedule and to control their priorities. If you're the business owner, you get to choose what priorities you want to work on. And then, of course, there's impact and purpose. So impact and purpose means that you want to make a difference and you want to do something that matters. So there are some hard truths that we need to share, and that is that 97.8% of all startups fail. And they fail regardless of what industry they are, high tech, low tech, manufacturing, service industry, they all fail at about the same rate. There are roughly 28 million firms in the United States. Only 4% of them, only 4% of those 28 million reach 1 million or more in revenue per year. And only 0.4% make it to 10 million. And really, that is where a business starts becoming successful, and delivering on those three key objectives is when the business is making more than 10 million. Only 0.061% make 50 million or more. So it's a very small elite population of businesses that occupy that rare 50 million plus revenue place. And so there is no question that goal setting is one of the ways that can bring you to that objective. Now, there are two pictures on the screen now. The picture on the right is called the Mobley Hotel. Okay, so this picture was taken in 1919. The Mobley Hotel is in a place called Cisco in Texas. So there was this soldier, he had fought in the war, and he came back to America, and he decided he's going to try his hand at politics. And he became a politician, but he did not succeed in politics. He felt that politics was too much of a cutthroat, too dishonest for his liking. So he was able to raise $40,000 in those days. So in 1919, he raised $40,000. And what he wanted to do with that $40,000 is he wanted to buy a bank. The deal fell through, and he was not able to purchase the bank. But next to the bank, there was the Mobley Hotel. So he knew nothing about hotels. The only thing he knew is that when he was a soldier in Europe, he had actually stayed at a hotel for a couple of nights, and they had treated him very well. There was a focus on customer service, and he had never seen that in any hotel in America. And so when he came back to the United States, and he had the access to the $40,000. Most of it was borrowed, and this motel was available for $40,000, about $703,000 in today's money. And so he bought it, and he had a little office in the hotel. And behind his desk on the office, now remember, at this point, he's practically bankrupt, but he had a magazine. And in the magazine, there was the picture that you see on the left of your screen. That picture is the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, or at least how it looked in 1919. And he cut the picture out of his magazine, out of this magazine. And he framed the picture, and together, and he wrote across the photograph of that picture, he wrote, "The greatest of them all," referring to the Waldorf Astoria, that magnificent building. He said, "This is the greatest of them all. That is the best hotel in the world at the time." And then he wrote, "One day I will own that." Right? So he wrote, "The greatest of them all, and one day I'm going to own it." And he actually did. When he was 86 years old, that was 5 years before his death, he bought the iconic building, the Waldorf Astoria, and he did two things immediately to the Waldorf Astoria. He renovated it, embarking on the most expensive renovation project that had ever been done to that point in time. And the second thing that he did for this hotel is he gave this hotel his name. So instead of calling it the Waldorf Astoria, till today, we call it the Hilton Waldorf Astoria, because this man's name, who bought the Mobley Motel in 1919, his name was Conrad Hilton, and he started the Hilton hotel chain. And to me, this story symbolizes the power of making good goals, of having goals, and specifically of writing them down. So a lot of studies show that if you write down goals, that you're actually more likely to accomplish them. So there are two types of goals that I want to speak about today, and they are called, respectively, they're called Northstar Metrics, or NSMs, and OKRs, which stands for objective and key results. Okay? And so I'm going to speak about both of these. They're quite different, but they're both necessary. So when you create a business, the first thing that you have to really, in terms of goal setting, is you have to create your North Star, or your vision, or your mission. So what is a North Star metric? The North Star metric is one metric that best reflects recurring customer value. Okay? If that metric rises, then your business is growing. But it must be predictable, it must be stable, it must be value-centered, and it must be influenced by your team. So if you're starting in your team of one, you're going to be the person influencing it. But at some stage, you're going to want to bring in other people's input into defining what your North Star metric is. Okay, so again, I just want to say a few things about North Star. One is, to repeat, that it has to capture some kind of customer value. It doesn't wobble. I say it doesn't wobble, means it remains. So people will have a North Star metric, and it will remain for multiple years, as opposed to the OKR, which we'll speak about soon, where you read the whole thing of an OKR is it's dynamic and you're constantly creating new ones. So how do you, so some examples of excellent Northstar metrics. Uber, their Northstar metric is completed trips. So notice they don't say signups, right? They don't track signups, because signups, like I said, a Northstar metric has to drive business growth and business value. So if you put, if Uber would say how many signups they get, well, a signup doesn't necessarily mean a person takes a ride. So Uber tracks completed trips as their NSM. Spotify tracks listening hours. That's their NSM. In other words, they don't measure downloads, how many people have downloaded Spotify onto their phones. That's a cool metric. What's it called? It's a metric if you want to boost your self-esteem, but it's not a very helpful metric in terms of forwarding their business. But listening hours is. Airbnb doesn't mention measure, in terms of their Northstar metric at least, how many hosts they acquire. What they measure is how many nights are booked, because if you have more nights booked, you're going to have more obviously you're going to have more hosts and you're going to have more customers. Nights booked is their NSM. For my coaching business, successful transformation, how many businesses can I help launch or transform in 90 days, that they see things and accomplish things that they would never have been able to accomplish themselves? So that's my, that would be my NSM, okay? So how do you pick your NSM? There's a 5-step diagnostic that you could use, which will help you with defining your NSM. The first step is you define your customer transformation. So this is not your business model. This is what you're going to accomplish for your customers, right? Then you want to identify the action that proves that the value is delivered. So think about your customer, think what they want from your business, and then think about how you can provide them value. The next thing is you make it sure that it's recurring and it's a leading indicator, meaning it's predicting revenue, not reporting revenue in the past. So your NSM is a North Star vision. It's something that's guiding you into the future. And finally, you want to check whether teams can realistically move the needle on your North Star mission, right? So if we go back to nights booked for Airbnb, nights booked, everyone in Airbnb knows the nights booked metric. And everything they do, they consider, will it lead to more nights booked or less nights booked? When in the early days of Airbnb, they saw that New York, which should have been their best market or one of the best marketplaces, was very low. So they actually visited New York and looked at the hosts who had posted on Airbnb from New York. And they noticed that quite consistently, people didn't take care taking high quality photographs, pictures of their homes. And so they literally went there themselves, the people from Airbnb, and they took pictures. And they were telling themselves the whole time, this is going to lead to more nights booked. And it did. It led to 30-some% growth in the New York market right away. So once you have a North Star, you got to see, so you see the team was able to influence it over there. They were able to go to New York and they were able to change the North Star, to change the metric. So if you own, I have a client that's a 3PL, a third-party logistics company. So they own multiple warehouses across Canada, and they help American companies sell into Canada. And they provide all the services that these US manufacturers and European and Chinese manufacturers need to sell into Canada. So they will manage their returns for them. They'll manage deliveries, shipments, etc. Their North Star mission is on-time delivery metric is on-time deliveries per month. So they're looking every month at how many on-time what's the percentage of on-time versus not on-time delayed deliveries, and they're currently tracking at around 93%, but their Northstar metric is to get it to 99% on-time delivery. Okay. A fintech, a financial technical, let's say a trading platform, which one of my clients is a trading platform. They want active monthly traders. So there's passive traders, there's active, there's hyperactive, and of course that's what they're tracking. So they're saying that X% of our traders should be active, and everything they do, their educational programs, etc., is all defined by that Northstar metric. Tax resolution, I have a client who's a tax resolution expert. So if a person gets into trouble with the IRS in the United States, he helps them negotiate their way out of their trouble, their criminal troubles. And his metric is not how many people sign up, not how many people, it's how many successful resolutions where he's got his customers out of trouble. And then I have a client who's a legal firm, and he tracks qualified intakes. So not how many leads come in or how many prospects, but how many are qualified. In other words, that they need the services that he provides. Okay. So that is Northstar Metrics. What are OKRs? So OKRs are the O in OKR stands for objectives, and objectives are inspirational, but they are qualitative. So Northstar Metrics should not have, I know I said the 3PL strives for 99% on-time delivery, but really you should not have numbers in your Northstar metric. It's qualitative, not quantitative. Sorry, Northstar metrics are quantitative, not qualitative, and OKRs are qualitative. So your objectives are inspirational, like your Northstar metrics, they're also inspirational, but your objectives are inspirational in a way that has numbers, measurable, it's somewhat measurable. And then your key results, that's the KR in OKR, is absolutely measurable outcomes. Now, OKRs are dynamic. Unlike the Northstar metric, where it's fixed and you keep consulting it so you know where you're headed, key results are dynamic. In other words, you should reset your OKRs every 90 days, every quarter. You should reset your, and by the way, OKRs don't only work at the enterprise level, they work at the individual. So every employee that works for a company should define what their OKRs are for that quarter. What are my objectives to accomplish this quarter? What are the key results that will help me measure what those objectives are? And that should all be directly tied to my Northstar metric. And that in turn should be tied to the Northstar metric of my team, which should in turn be tied to the Northstar metric of the entire company. So this is how NSM and OKRs fit together. NSM is the mountain. I want to get to the peak of that mountain. That's the mountain I want to climb. OKRs are the path that gets you to the peak of the mountains. So if your OKRs are right, if you're taking the correct steps up that path, step by step, then the relationship between your OKRs and your NSM on the top is going to create diagnostic clarity. You'll always know that your execution is working if your OKRs are bringing you closer to your NSM. If you run a quarterly OKR planning session, the best way to do it is you start with your NSM. So if you have a team and there's more than one person, or even with yourself, remind yourself what your NSM is. You shouldn't take too much reminding, because it should be on post-it notes on your computer screen. It should be in your bathroom mirror. It should be everywhere where you see it on a consistent basis, because all of your decisions are going to be filtered through the NSM. But then every quarter, you sit down, you reread your NSM, you think about it for a moment, and then you examine each key result that came in the past quarter. Did you hit it or did you not hit it? So if you, well, I'll give you examples soon, and then maybe it will make more sense. And you want to approach this logically, not emotionally. So don't say, yes, but I have a good excuse why I didn't hit my KRs. No, you want to be, I hit it or I didn't. There's, what did Yoda say? Do or not do. There is no try, or something like that. Maybe I'm misquoting him, but it's something along those lines. And that's with KRs, OKRs. You got to be very logical about it. Then you want to, if you miss, that's fine. It's information. You want to know what constraints were there that held me back, what were the blockers, and you want to turn those into objectives for your future, for the future. So creating great key results is to understand that the biggest problem that people have, the biggest failure that people have in setting OKRs is they say KRs are tasks, things I need to do. They are not tasks, they are outcomes. You need 3 to 5 per objective, not more than that, because then it becomes ambiguous, and you need maybe 2 or 3 objectives per quarter. So here's some examples of strong OKRs. The objective is reduce onboarding time of my customers. So let's say it currently takes my customers 14 minutes. So that's the objective. I want to reduce the onboarding time. Now the KR is I want to reduce it from 14 minutes to 4 minutes, right? Or let's say your objective is increase qualified leads, like my lawyer client. So you want to increase the leads from 70 a month to 150 a month, and qualified leads. And then, so what you want here is the 70 to 150, that's your KR, and your objective is increase the qualified leads. You want to increase referrals. Let's say 0.4, 40% of your clients provide you with referrals. You want 100% of clients to provide you with referrals. Maybe some clients providing you more than one, but you want 100% of referrals. And then if you're a fintech, you want to boost your active traders from 12,000 to 20,000. And that would be your quarterly goal. So these business outcomes, your objectives and key results, are tied directly to the corporate NSM, to whatever the NSM is. Now, you also want to have weekly accountability sessions, especially if you have a team. So this is red, yellow, green reporting. So what you do is you're tracking your OKRs so they never get dusty on a shelf, right? You want to know what's changed, so what help is needed, what blockers need to be unblocked, etc., so that your team surfaces risks early, asks for help, and maintains the momentum. And that should be a weekly cadence. So let's bring it all together. Number one, you want to pick a powerful NSM. You want to pick a powerful Northstar metric. You want to design OKRs that move that metric. You want to run disciplined quarterly cycles where you define your OKRs. And then you want to create unstoppable alignment, making sure that you have focus, you have measurable goals, and those measurable goals are moving you towards the NSM. And this system, as I said, from many goal systems that I've tried, I like to tell people I don't do research, I do me search. So if I see something that looks interesting, I'll put it, play with it for a couple of months, see if it's moving the needle. If it isn't, I'm not going to share it. OKRs and NSMs, I've seen them move companies that do $3,000 a month. I had a client, he's no longer $3,000, is closer to $30,000 a month now, but 7 months ago when we started working together, his revenue was $3,000 a month, okay? And we worked on his NSM, we worked on his OKRs, and we've done three sessions of OKR definition, and his revenue is at 30,000. So, that's the unstoppable alignment when this whole thing works. And as I said, that's from me search. Okay, I think we're at time, so I don't want to go over time. So we'll stop it there, and I will open up to questions. I know I went very fast over that, but perhaps there's questions, comments.
Yes, and also maybe a time like one of the question can be, Stephen, for example, is how to define your North Star and the
Yeah,
OKR,
happy to do a little
right?
workshop on that.
So
For sure.
yes,
Thank you so
if
much, Karen.
if you want to share it now in the recording.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to have someone of Abraham's stature and experience to weigh in on my humble endeavor. Uh, I did have a question as well, but I'd love to, I guess, see how North Star metric would apply potentially to my venture, because just recently I've somewhat changed the business model where I've been for the past year, have been looking at it from a freemium perspective, almost like a combination of LinkedIn and Expedia. So essentially having a free hub for professionals who recently retired, providing them with a lot of information around personal finance, health and well-being, options in terms of hobbies and other best practices, and then having more premium content available for professionals that are looking to provide mentorship and consulting services. But after speaking with other mentors, a suggestion was made to consider more of a not-for-profit.
Hello? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Stephen, I can't hear you anymore. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I don't hear you anymore.
I hear
Something
Stephen.
happened to my sound.
I hear Stephen,
Um,
and I hear
oh,
you, Avram.
sorry, Stephen. Could you just repeat what you said towards the end?
Of course. Yeah. So right now I'm focusing more on a not-for-profit model, whereby for both easier for application for grants. And the idea is because on the mentorship side, on the flip side, you have a lot of people like startup founders, aspiring achievers, new immigrants who will be primarily paying for the services. Hence, a lot of the mentors, the professionals, they would be doing it more altruistically or complementary. Therefore, from the advice of Marat and other professionals, I believe it makes more sense to run it as a not-for-profit. And hence, now hearing your presentation, I was just thinking what might be um, a North Star metric for me to sort of strive towards that guiding light. One that came to mind would be perhaps a number of 5-star reviews from these mentor sessions to track. But I'm wondering whether that's an actual North Star or that's more of an OKR.
That's more of an OKR.
Mhm.
Definitely. So let me just drill down on a few things. So if I
Mhm.
understand correctly, so first of all, I'll just tell you a quick story
Mhm.
that happened to me a few years ago, about 3, 4 years ago. I was in the bank. I can't even remember why I was in the bank. Something to do with my business account, because it was my business bank, and I was just waiting to see a bank manager, and this old man walked into the bank. He must have been, I would say, late 70s, 80s in that thing, and such a sweet looking old man, right? And he went up to the bank teller, and I was sitting in the waiting room, and I heard him go up to the bank teller, and he goes up to the bank teller, and he says to the bank teller, sorry, Steve, could I ask you just to put yourself on mute for a second, because I'm getting some feedback. And awesome, awesome, thank you so much. You can pull yourself off mute when when you want to say something. So I'm sitting there in the waiting room of the bank, and this person walks in, and he goes, "I need to pay my heating bill, right?" And she says yes, and he says, this is my account number, and it's saying there's not sufficient funds in my account number. So she types on the computer, and she says, yes, it's true. You owe $300 or whatever it is for heating, and you only have $15 in your account. So she says, do you have another account? I can transfer money from another account into your account. And he goes, no, there should be money in that account. Like, I think that's the money and he didn't speak English so well. And he was, the look on his face, I will never forget that look for the rest of my life. A look, it's hard to describe. It was a little bit terror. It was a little bit of anxiety. It was disappointment. It was profound sadness, profound sadness. And I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, like I would not want to be in that man's position. He looked like a man who'd worked with his hands. Probably, I'm guessing, maybe a carpenter or a builder of some sort. And here he is, what should be what they call the golden years of his life, right? And he's sitting there and he doesn't have enough money to pay for his heating. And then, so the lady was really quite sweet, and she goes, the bank teller, and she says, do you have some children somebody could reach out to? And you could just see this man was so proud. There was no way he was reaching out. He said he had a daughter, but there was no way he was reaching out to that daughter, right? If you can resolve that, oh my goodness, that is what a mission. Now, that resonates with me because I saw that person. That is not necessarily what resonates with you, but find a story like that you've experienced with some of your clients or whatever, or even if it's not a story with a particular person, it could be a composite. You know statistics because this is your industry. So find those statistics and what is your business solving? What is it result? What problem is it solving? Like, could you have helped this man if you would have got him 10 years ago when he was still earning?
Perhaps, yeah, it would be potentially. I mean, like for me, the vision is to empower people to live with dignity in their next chapter. And
Awesome. Hold on. Empower people to live, I'm writing it down, with dignity in their next chapter. Okay.
So for me, the key from going back, and there were a couple of profound situations that happened both to me personally and just hearing other stories, is just that need for significance, that need for relevance, especially as we get older and we start looking back at our lives and seeing whether we lived, and this is proven by many psychologists, whether looking at the likes of Eric Erickson or Adler, or it just usually, I mean, of course, now with so many resources that are being put towards longevity, but not nearly as much put towards living those latter years with supporting the lifestyle that we've accustomed to. And then people are often looking back and wondering whether they have lived a good life, a life of dignity, significance, and relevance, or unfortunately, it's a bit too late, and it sort of fell by the wayside. So I guess it's eliminating those regrets. It's helping people to live with that sense of dignity and relevance. And for me, and I think we actually touched upon this, it's that whole Maslow's hierarchy, that self-actualization, but the highest virtue is self-transcendence, and one accomplishes that by helping others on their journey. So to me, it's more about helping those people, enabling people that have that skills and experience and wisdom, that they can help others on their journey, almost like passing on that flame. This wisdom is the one thing that,
Beautiful. You said a lot of cool stuff there. I'm going to just stop you in the interest of time, and we can take this offline and go in more depth, but I want to really shoot you with some very specific questions for you to help really refine and define your Northstar metrics. So the one question is, what is the core transformation that you want to create for your customers? So here you say, what is the before state and what is the after state? And then your North Star metric needs to kind of measure that transformation. So the before state is like
is I guess
potentially not living with dignity.
Yeah,
right. You're setting the person setting themselves up not to live life of dignity in their next chapter. And the after state is the person's empowered. So what changes? What changes between the before state and the after state? You don't have to answer it now, but I'm just thinking this is like kind of what you're going to be thinking about.
Of course.
And that change, the thing that's changing, is going to be your North Star metric.
It's Question is, how do you quantify or how do you describe,
You
I
don't
guess?
quantify it. A Northstar metric, it's not a quantity, right?
But
It's a before state and after state.
well,
Then,
no, no,
okay,
I get it. I understand. I'm just thinking in terms of from the describing it like a renewed sense of meaning and purpose. How do you actually say that my North Star is to achieve so and so many transformations, or
yep, that would
you?
be amazing. Yes. So many people to take them from state X to state Y, right?
Mhm,
From the before
mhm.
state to the after state.
Okay.
And whatever's doing it. So what is the thing that's taking them from state X to state Y? Whatever that thing is, that's going to be your North Star. So you're going to say, I want to achieve, like there's people like Tony Robbins, for example.
Mhm.
You know what his North Star vision is? His North Star vision is feeding 1 billion people.
Mm.
It's a very modest goal, but he wants to provide food for 1 billion people that don't have food security. He wants to give them that food security. So what's his before state? Children hungry, right?
Mhm.
That's awful. What's the after state? The children have food security. So he wants to, and again, that's maybe not the perfect NSM because it has a number on it, but because that number is so big, maybe it's passable. But he wants to feed the planet. He wants to,
Mhm.
what was it? Who was it? Bill Gates, I think it was, who said a PC in every home. Right, that was
Mhm.
his North Star. That was Microsoft's North Star vision, to put a PC, to make it affordable enough and valuable enough that there'll be one in every home. Right, so that's a North Star metric. Okay.
Well, well,
Um,
my platform essentially revolves around legacy, around. I actually call it lighthouse legacy, essentially, and then and the concept of it is purposeful wisdom for modern problems. So I do strongly believe that a lot of people who have that skills and experience, and I've personally witnessed it on many occasions as a financial planner, my favorite thing to do would be to sit down with these experienced professionals, whether business owners, executives, sales leaders, and they would just tell me the stories that how they have triumphed, how they've some challenges and tribulations. And to me, that was absolutely the highlight of my role. I would put everything aside, put my phone on silent, and I was just mesmerized by the wisdom and the experience of
okay,
what these
so
people
what the
cascaded.
transformation? What I'm hearing from you is that the transformation that's putting a person from X to Y, from before state to the after state, it sounds like it's imparting wisdom.
Hmm.
That's the transformation.
Correct.
So
Yep.
educating
Hmm.
educating people, that is your North Star metric.
Yes.
People educated,
Hmm.
people imparted wisdom. Okay, so and that actually, my next question I was going to ask is, what is the most valuable outcome that your customer receives if you do your job perfectly? And that forces you to identify the essence of your value delivery, like what the value that you're going to deliver, not the features that enables it. So what is the most valuable outcome? So the most valuable outcome, I think, is the wisdom that they
Yes.
achieve.
Hmm.
Okay, all right, so I think we can
That is the
we can
cardinal
move along.
virtue. Yep.
Yeah,
It's imparting
if
that
you could.
wisdom, enabling others, and especially now, I mean, information's been so democratized with AI, but the one thing is that crystallized wisdom that you gather
Yes.
just from
Okay.
years of being.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's what you do is you turn data into wisdom for your clients, so that they can
Mhm.
live, they can plan a life that will give them dignity throughout their life, financial dignity throughout their lives.
Mhm.
Okay. If you could only improve one thing for your customers over the next 12 months, what would create the greatest compounding impact on them?
Well, the way I envision it is that these, it's, you have two sides to the equation. You have the mentors, the elders, the sages, and then you have people that are in need of this wisdom, but in a way they're helping one another. So one side needs a sense of structure, a sense of community, and a sense of purpose. Because typically, when one leaves their business, their employer, that's what they lose. And having this sense of these attributes is, I believe, is what is going to give them that self transcendence and equanimity. The other
Excellent. So
side,
you're kind of answering my next question as well, and that is my next question would be what metric would reveal, without any explanation, that your customers are truly succeeding because of you? So what would that be? So how would you know?
so right now I'm offering them surveys, quizzes, and assessments to kind of gauge where they're lacking. So I presume that hopefully after going through whether the workshop or the mentoring sessions, that they will score higher on these metrics.
Okay, that question which I asked is to pull you out of yourself and focus on them, which you did perfectly. So well done over there. I am going quickly. If we were doing a proper session, like a proper coaching session, to come up with your NSM, we would take 4 or 5 hours to go through these questions, right? And
I'm not opposed to it, but
with a whiteboard
I'm not sure
and
what
everything.
your hourly rate is, but maybe we can work something out.
Sure. I'll happily. We'll work something out. This is I love doing this stuff, so it's great, and I believe in your mission as well. So we can talk. What behavior would your customers need to repeatedly do to make your business grow?
Continue mentoring, consulting.
So it's frequency of times that they interact with the wise advisor.
I would, probably say the number of sessions that they interact, whether with one or more so. So maybe number of sessions per week or per month.
Okay, and cool. That's the repeated value. If your business grew by 10x, right? So if you had 10 clients, you get to 100, right? 100, you get to 1,000. What customer outcome would need to be 10x better or more, or 10x more frequent?
Well, I mean, my goal is not to spotlight myself. The idea is for me to provide and enable others. So I would want for them to build their own circles, to essentially to almost like create their own kind of personalized platforms or entities. So it's almost like little hubs where, for example, retired accountants or retired firemen that are mentoring and coaching others to follow in their journey. So for me, it'd just be more, like you said, a quantity. So let's say if now we're sort of beta testing and seeing, kind of niching down to see who it's resonating more with, then it's almost like building a movement or a community, expanding it and gaining more of that notoriety.
Okay, so this is the question where you're not doing so well. So
Yes.
that's where I would stop and drill down a little bit and challenge you a bit. So what I wrote down before when we started this, and so far everything was going well, I wrote, you want to empower people to live with dignity in their next chapter. Okay. Now, how would you 10x that? What would need to change to 10x? Maybe you're too early in your business process. Maybe that's why I'm not getting a good. You might be too early. You might be in the experimental stage where you have to go out. So maybe too early to ask this question.
So perhaps, I guess, the flip side, basically, the way I see this idea project and develop down the line would actually once the proof of concept or the product market fit has been established with a number of consultations, I would love the idea of bringing this back to B2B, essentially, to bring this back to corporations, the likes of the banks and automotives and other entities that are now in the process of restructuring and laying people off, and position this as a way for them to basically to help retool their older employees so they can come back and then they can potentially come back as consultants, as vendors to help retrain some of the younger workforce that's coming in.
Got it.
So that's where I see potentially this scaling towards.
Okay, I have about 20 more questions that I would typically ask, but I'll just ask one more because I love this one.
Yes, and just try to wrap the process with Stephen for the sake of the recording, because we have more questions that I will do it offline. So I want to have one good demonstration
Awesome.
of this process with Stephen and wrap it up. And when it's wrapped
Absolutely.
up, I'll stop the recording and I will open it to additional questions.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so the question I just will mention, we won't try and answer it. If your competitors copied your product tomorrow, what customer outcome would still allow you to dominate? Okay, but anyway, we can talk about that. So let's just look at OKRs for a moment. So let's assume, even though I think we would have crafted a little bit differently, if the thing was empower people to live with dignity in their next chapter, let's say that became the North Star, right? Whatever, or give people wisdom, or so, you know, something that we figured out. Then just in the next 90 days, in the next quarter, so let's say starting from January, let's say, what objective would you need to important outcome would you need to achieve to move you closer to that empower people to live with dignity? So I'm not going to ask you for an answer, but you would give an answer to that, and then we would then drive into what meaningful problems do you have that need to be solved now? What would amazing look like in 3 months' time? What how will we know without any debate that progress was made? So now we get into the numbers. So if we could help a dozen people, 12 people in the next 3 months achieve ABC, right? Then we would have accomplished this objective. And you do that times 2 or 3, and those objectives roll up to your NSM, which is empower people to live with dignity in their next chapter. So if we can put 4 people onto our premium plan, which is going to really put them in a position where they will be able to retire with enough savings to live whatever life they want, then we will have succeeded. 4 people, that's what we need. 12 people, 25 people, 1,000 people in the next 90 days to do ABC. If we get 1,000 leads in the next 90 days, and 300 of them are qualified, and 10 of them sign up to our premium offering, that's my objective, aligned with the NSM, and that's my key results measured over there. Okay, so that's a little bit there, but again, love your mission, and this is a really important thing to do, again, on a one-time basis to define your North Star, and then after that, at least quarterly to define what your OKRs are, and then weekly, at least, to check in with your OKRs, even if it's just you, to check in, are you hitting them or not?
Okay, this was helpful. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Much success.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Karen.
So before I close the recording and we continue to more question off record, do you want to say like a closing word just for the recording? We're not closing the meeting, we're just closing the recording. So
Sure.
would you like to? Okay.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of studies done of people who write down goals. Written goals are very important. So there's a study that professors that write down their educational goals are 230 times more likely to achieve tenure in the first 10 years of their teaching than those that don't have written goals. They did an experiment where a professor walked into a classroom, a college classroom, and let's say there were 100 students in the classroom, and he told the students to write down the academic objectives that they had for the class. Then they went to a different class with 100 students, and they just basically told them, do the best you can, but they didn't give them specific goals, academic goals, and they didn't have them write it down. So the percentage in class A, where they were time to think about goals and write them down, their percentage was far higher than the percentage of the classes where they didn't have goals. So in every area of life, whether it's your career, whether it's your business, whether you want to become a tenured professor, whatever your goal is, whether you want to write a book. So people who write books and they have, I want to write a book as their goal versus I want to write 500 words a day, or I want to spend 2 hours a day writing a book. Guess who actually gets the book written? The one who has the specific SMART, as they're called, SMART goals. So Google was introduced to the OKR system of setting goals in 1999. They were a small search engine in those days. They had about $17 million of revenue, advertising revenue, and they started with OKRs. So I don't need to tell you where Google is today, right? That's the power. And a lot of the chief executives that have been at Google for a long time say that the power of that company is based on the fact that they have a Northstar mission. I think their Northstar mission is metric, or mission, not metric, is do no evil, right? And then they have objectives, which are how fast you can get a result, how fast you can get off our website. Everybody else in 1999 was, we want people to stay on our website for as long as possible. Google's, we want people to get off our website because they got the result and they're off as long as possible. So that was, so their first OKR was get the response time down from 4 seconds to 0.4 seconds. And they worked for 90 days to do that because they knew that if they hit that objective, it's going to drive more traffic to them. And looking at the results, obviously it worked. So I'm sure that all of you will put your Northstar metrics down, your OKRs, and constantly refresh those, and then you'll be the Google of tomorrow.
So thank you, Avrohom Jack. I'm closing the recording, but I'm not closing the meeting, so we can have more question off record and more discussion. Let me just close the recording and stop recording.